Every story carries a whisper of the soul. Listening isn't enough. Feel it. This is Soul Stories. The morning meeting had just begun when Ethan Gray, the CEO of Gray Tech Industries, heard a soft, uncertain knock on his glass office door. His executive team went silent. Ethan, still scanning the quarterly reports on his tablet, didn't even glance up. "Come in," he said, his tone clipped, the kind of tone that made grown men nervous. The door creaked open. Everyone expected another assistant or a late manager hurrying in with excuses. Instead, the door revealed something no one could have imagined. A little girl, no more than 7 years old, standing there in a faded pink dress and worn white sneakers. Her dark brown hair was tied into 2 slightly uneven pigtails, and a pink backpack hung loosely from her small shoulders. In her tiny hands, she clutched a folder almost bigger than her chest. Her big brown eyes darted nervously from one adult face to another. The entire room froze. Ethan finally looked up, confused. "Can I help you?" The girl took a hesitant step forward, her voice trembling but polite. "Excuse me, sir. My mom's sick, so I came instead." A ripple of surprise moved across the room. One of the senior managers stifled a cough. Ethan blinked, completely thrown off. "Came instead?" he repeated. "Instead of what?" She took a deep breath, clutching the folder tighter. "My mom works here. She said you needed these reports today. She didn't want to be late, so I brought them." Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her. The golden morning light streaming through the blinds caught the dust in the air. And in that stillness, even the ticking clock on the wall seemed louder. He gently gestured for her to come closer. "What's your name?" "Lily," she replied softly. "Lily Bennett." At that, Ethan's expression shifted. He recognized the surname immediately. Sarah Bennett, his senior administrative assistant. Always punctual, always dependable. The kind of employee who never asked for favors. Lily placed the folder carefully on the edge of his desk. "Mom said these are very important. She made me promise not to wrinkle them." A small, nervous smile tugged at her lips as she looked around at the tall adults in suits. She seemed out of place in that cold, high-rise office, yet somehow she brought warmth with her presence. Ethan cleared his throat, still taken aback. "Well, Lily, you kept your promise." For the first time that morning, the powerful CEO's voice softened, and everyone in the room could feel it. Ethan slowly took the folder from the little girl's trembling hands, his sharp gaze softening the moment he read the label. Sarah Bennett, his most reliable and hard-working assistant. She was the quiet type, never missed a deadline, and rarely spoke unless spoken to. It was unlike her to be absent without notice. He looked back at the child who now stood nervously before his massive oak desk, her feet barely touching the floor as she shifted her weight from one to the other. Kneeling so he could meet her at eye level, Ethan offered a small smile, something rare for the man known around the office for his stone-like composure. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lily," she replied proudly, straightening her small shoulders. "Mom says you're her boss. She didn't want to miss work, but she's really sick, so I came instead." A soft chuckle escaped Ethan's lips, more from disbelief than humor. "You came instead? That's very brave of you, Lily." She nodded earnestly, clutching her backpack straps. "Mom says if you start something, you finish it. Even if it's hard." She said hard work always matters and good people notice. Those words struck Ethan deeper than he expected. He'd heard countless motivational quotes from billionaires, read endless leadership books, but somehow, this little girl's simple honesty carried more truth than all of them combined. He studied her small, hopeful face. There was no fear of power or wealth in her eyes, only innocence and a quiet determination that reminded him of something he'd long forgotten: humanity. "You know," he said softly, "your mom is one of the best people in this whole company. She works harder than anyone I've ever met." Lily's eyes lit up. "She says she likes her job because it helps people." Ethan tilted his head, curious. "Helps people? How so?" "She says when she keeps things running right for you, you can help lots of families by giving them jobs," Lily explained, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Ethan felt something twist inside him. Guilt, admiration, and warmth all at once. This little girl didn't see him as a rich, powerful CEO. To her, he was simply someone who could make a difference. For the first time in years, Ethan smiled, not the practiced, polite smile for cameras or meetings, but a genuine one. He stood and said quietly, "Lily, I think your mom is right. Good people do notice." And that morning, in the middle of his glass tower, the millionaire who had everything realized he'd been missing something priceless: the simple grace of kindness. Ethan stared at the little girl for a long moment after she spoke, still holding the folder she had brought so carefully. Something about her presence, innocent yet determined, had shifted something deep within him. He wasn't just a CEO anymore. For the first time, he felt like a human being seeing another person struggle up close. He pressed a button on his desk phone. "Mark," he said to his assistant outside, his voice softer than usual. "Have the company driver brought around immediately." A few minutes later, his sleek black car was waiting in the lobby. Ethan walked Lily down himself, ignoring the puzzled looks of his staff. They weren't used to seeing their boss leave his office for anyone. As they reached the front doors, he crouched to meet her eyes again. "Lily," he said gently, "I want you to go home and stay with your mom, okay? I'll make sure she gets the best medical care available, and it'll all be taken care of by the company." Lily's eyes widened, the innocence in them glowing like sunlight. "Really?" she whispered. He nodded. "Your mom's been helping me for years. Now it's my turn to help her." Her small hands fidgeted with the straps of her backpack, unsure of how to respond. "Mom always says we shouldn't ask for help," she murmured. Ethan smiled, the kind of smile that reached his eyes. "She's not asking. I'm offering, and because she deserves it." For a moment, they stood there in silence, the hum of the city outside blending with the quiet heartbeat of compassion that had suddenly filled the room. Then Lily reached into her backpack and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. She handed it to him shyly. "This is for you," she said. Ethan unfolded it carefully. A crayon drawing of a tall man in a suit standing in front of a big building, smiling from ear to ear. The stick figure's smile was huge and lopsided, colored in bright yellow. Underneath, in uneven letters, were the words, "Mr. Ethan, you should smile more." Ethan couldn't help it. He laughed, a real unguarded laugh that startled even the receptionist nearby. It was a sound so rare that even his secretary upstairs would later whisper, "Did the boss just laugh?" He looked at Lily, still holding the drawing. "You know what, Lily?" he said softly. "I think I'll try." As the car door closed and she waved goodbye, Ethan glanced at the drawing once more, and for the first time in years, the cold, lonely walls of his office didn't feel so empty anymore. A week passed and the atmosphere at Graytech felt different. The once icy tone of the company had begun to warm, subtly but unmistakably. For the first time in years, the employees noticed their CEO walking into the building with a faint smile on his face, and not the polite, practiced one they were used to. On a quiet Monday morning, Sarah Bennett walked through those same glass doors, pale but looking healthier. She clutched a small bouquet of daisies in one hand, her eyes filled with emotion. The moment she stepped into Ethan's office, tears welled up instantly. "Sir," she began, her voice trembling, I don't know how to thank you. The doctor said if I hadn't gotten treatment so quickly, things could have gotten worse. You didn't have to do all that." Ethan turned from his desk, a warm smile softening his usually firm features. On the corner of his desk sat a framed crayon drawing, the same one Lily had given him. The bright yellow smile beamed out from behind the glass. He nodded toward it. "Actually, I did," he said gently, "because you've been thanking me for years. Every single day you showed up, stayed late, and kept this company running even when I was too busy to notice." Sarah covered her mouth, trying not to cry. "You have no idea what that means to me, sir." Ethan stood and walked around his desk, handing her a tissue with a small chuckle. "Please call me Ethan, and you should know your daughter is quite the ambassador. She reminded me that work matters, but people matter more." Sarah let out a shaky laugh through her tears. "She told me she met you, and that you smiled." Ethan grinned. "She drew me doing it, and I've been practicing ever since." They both laughed softly, the kind of laugh that fills a room with warmth. For a long moment, silence lingered. Not the uncomfortable kind, but the kind that comes after hearts finally understand one another. Later that day, Ethan called a company-wide meeting. Standing before hundreds of employees, he announced a new policy: paid family care leave, flexible hours for parents, and a fund to support workers during medical emergencies. His voice carried through the hall with sincerity. No one in this company should ever have to choose between their job and their family. The crowd applauded, but Ethan's eyes drifted to the framed drawing on the projector screen behind him, that same bright smile reminding him why he'd changed. And every morning after that, when he walked into his office, he smiled, just like Lily's drawing.